My name is Jim Wilson, and I am the Director of Web Services. Today's email workshop continues our January series of workshops featuring Email Plus and the Skin Designer. In February, I will be presenting more workshops. I'm just not quite sure what they are yet, so you will get an email about that, I'm sure. Today's Email Plus workshop is the same as was presented earlier this month and earlier this week. So if you've already seen it, it's pretty much the exact same thing that you saw earlier this week. And during the workshop, I will be moving around web tools quite a bit, both from tab to tab and sometimes from web tool to web tool. I'll be opening several new browser tabs as we view the emails that I'm using as examples. So this workshop is not really designed for you to follow along with me in web tools. You can try, but I will be moving quickly. The workshop will be recorded, but not made available until next week or the following week. We have to caption our videos, and it takes our student quite a while to caption a 60-minute video where I don't stop talking. Also, if you are from another campus or from a unit that does not use the Illinois brand, there will be a few things that are not applicable to you today. In today's workshop, we will cover topics like branding, reporting, workflow, and others. Plus, I'll be throwing in some tips and tricks. More advanced users will already know most of what I'm talking about today. This afternoon, the Skin Designer workshop is scheduled for 1 p.m. It is a 30-minute workshop. This is a 60-minute workshop we're in right now. In the Skin Designer workshop, we'll be covering branded skins, non-branded skins, access, usage, updating, and tips and tricks. Skins are quite easy to set up, but there are some basic guidelines to follow, so it's important to choose the right skin type. But that is a very simple workshop, and in 30 minutes, I will show everything the Skin Designer can do and how you can do it in minutes. Okay, let's get started. In Email Plus, there are different ways to create emails, 3 different ways, and then there's also a way to copy an email. We're going to start by looking at the different emails and different ways you can create emails. So on the Create tab, we can see at the top, we can create an email which starts you with a blank email and you insert the elements. Next is an e-card, which is just a minimalist email that features theme designs like holidays and seasons. These don't get used a whole lot. And then we also have an email from template option. This means that someone has created an email template in Email Plus and assigned you access to use it. And you can select it out of the dropdown, and it will start you off with that email template. And we'll look more at that in a second. Okay, let's create a blank email, and I'll give it a name. Email blank. Click Save. So in Web Tools, the workflow is always left to right. We follow all the tabs and subtabs from left to right. When we get to the right, we're probably finished. All I've done in this email so far on the General tab is give it a subject and click Save. At the top, we have a Send Test button at the top of each of the screens. And if I click that, it's going to tell me on the General tab, the From address field must not be blank. So whenever you click this, if there's anything wrong with your email, it's going to tell you right at the top, and it should tell you how to correct it. So we can see the From address cannot be blank. I'll go ahead and put myself in. So we have a From address. Then also I'm going to go ahead and choose a couple groups to send to. And that's pretty much all we do on the General tab is subject, the from, and the to. And I'll just quickly choose a few groups. You can choose as many as you like. All duplicate emails will be removed. So if someone is in, all the groups, they will only get one email. Okay, I've chosen some test groups I have. And now if I click Send Test Email, I get a different message. your email must contain a message. Okay, we have not gotten to the message tab yet, so we haven't added anything to this email. So let's view it and see what it looks like right now. There it is. We can see that we're starting off with a branded skin. I can tell that by at the top we have the Illinois word mark. Under that we have the unit and department information and this blue banner. And at the bottom we have the block I and the contact information formatted like you see it to match the Illinois email brand. But we have no content in it yet. So that's why it can't be tested yet. We haven't added anything to it. Okay, that is the first way to create an email. And again, it just gives you a blank email with a skin. The second way, and we'll go back in and we'll do more with that email in a second. The second way is an e-card. Go ahead and create one. Now we've created an e-card. When I view it, I can see a nice image at the top. Again, these are seasonal, holiday themed, campus themed. There's lots of buildings out there that you can choose from. And all you can really do with the e-card is give it a title and give it some content, and that's it. So very simple way to send out a greeting or an announcement. That's the second type of email that can be created. The third type is an email from template. And like I said before, in Email Plus, you can create templates and assign others to use those. The others can use them and they will see them right here in this drop-down box, but they will not see them to go in and edit your templates. They can never change your templates. They can simply start an email by copying one of your templates. And we will look at creating templates here in a second. What do the templates look like? So the templates are here for you to see prepared content that may match what you want to do. You can quickly look through them. So I'm just opening and closing a few of these so you can see this one looks like an event. The next one, events with images. So if you were sending out, events or something that had images, you may want this format. Here's another one, events with images. Okay, so there's lots of different styles out here that you can start with. And maybe you had something you want to resemble this email. You could start with this template, and then you could remove the hero image at the top, put in your own hero image, change the skin so it's your unit, change the H1. So basically, you're simply changing the content that you copied to start with. And we will do that here in a second, and I'll show you how quickly that can go. For now, I'm going to choose this newsletter one, email from template. So we're creating a new email in Email Plus from a template. Okay, there it is. Now it's mine. I'll call it email from template. And when we look at it, we can see it's an exact copy of the template that I chose. All right, we will look at reworking this content here in a little bit. That was the third way to create an email. The last way is on the Sent tab. So once you've created your email or created it from a template, you build it, you have it looking the way you want it, and you send it out, then it is going to be on the Sent tab for 3 years. We keep emails for 3 years. And what a lot of people do is once they've created this initial email, then each month or each week they want to send something similar, they go to the Sent tab and they copy it. So here is the workshop reminder that I sent to everyone earlier this week. If I wanted to send another reminder, I would select it, copy it. Okay, here it is. We'll just call it okay, from sent. So there's the one that I copied, I sent earlier this week. When I view it, There's the email you received. I could very quickly, change the dates if these workshops were happening again and send it out, or I could change the content and send out information about other workshops. That's probably the most common way that people work in Email Plus is they sent a previously created email that they've copied. All right, those are the 4 ways to create an email. We're going to look at these during the workshop today. Before we do, I mentioned you can create templates. So in Email Plus, we have this Templates tab. It looks just like the My Emails tab. It's got a Create button. Only anything you create on this tab is a template, not an email. And one thing about templates is, if I go into this one and I go to the Send tab, we will see Email Plus templates cannot be sent. To use this template, create a new email and select templates. So it's telling you to go back and create an email and use the template section of that create screen. So anything you create, any template you create, you cannot send. You can send a test and you can view it just like any other email, but you can't send it. It's only sitting there as a template to be used by you or others. Now, when would you use a template rather than just create an email? In Stratcom, our designers create the templates for the News Bureau to use. So the News Bureau sends out a story every day, every week, a series of stories. They have the Daily Roundup, the Illinois in the News, several different types of emails, 5 different. So 5 templates were created by the design team. The design team then gave access to the News Bureau to use, and we'll look at giving access a little later in this workshop. So the News Bureau, when they go in each day, they go to the Create button, email from template, and then they see those 5 templates that were created for them because they were given access, and they choose the appropriate one, and then they simply change the image, change the paragraph, change the title, and send it out. So that's how templates are used. If you want to be in control of an email design, and you want to give others the ability to use it, but you do not want them to be able to edit it or change it, just simply to use that design. Those are templates. Next, we're going to look at applying the brand. And we'll go back into the first email that we created, the email one, the blank one, where we're going to do everything ourselves. And I mentioned that we had a branded skin in this email. So the brand is applied on the Appearance tab for any web tool. And when we go to the Appearance tab, we can see these little orange block eyes. Whenever I see that, I know it's a branded skin. Any other icon in here is a non-branded skin. So simply by choosing any of these with a block eye, you have applied the brand to the email. Now there is more branding elements while building the email, but the first one, simply applying the skin, which is the header and the footer, is done here on the Appearance tab. Now we're going to look at simple ways to build these emails. We've seen the 4 ways to create them. We'll start with the blank one. Again, this is the one that has no content. On the Message tab, this is where all your work happens. And to do that, we can select the elements from the drop-down box. There's not very many of them. Content, image, and columns. There's most of your content elements right there. But then we also have a spacer to space things out. And we have headings, which are labels. An H1, an H2, and H3. And H1 is larger, H2 is a little smaller, H3 is a little smaller than the H2. And then we have a line. If I view a template, okay, this shows a good example of the headings. I can see right here at the top, this is an H1. Your emails should start with an H1. The H1 can be on top of this hero image, maybe there is no hero image and the H1 comes first. The only time an H1 doesn't come first is if you do want to put an image like this at the top of your email. Then the H1 could be bumped down underneath the image. But other than that, the H1 really should come first. Okay, I can see that these are columns. Columns don't use headings. They use titles, which are a little different, which the titles, though, equate to a heading, and they look like a heading, and they have the same padding and spacing as the headings if you allow our system to put in that padding and spacing, and we'll look at that in a second. If I scroll down a little bit, I can see that this is probably an H2. Okay, so we have an H1. Our H1 is followed by an H2. Again, these are titles. If these weren't columns and this was just content with labels, and this is an H2, then I would expect each of these to be H3s. We keep going down. Here's another H2. If this section was divided into subsections, then I would expect to see H3s within this, to label the content within this subsection. So again, H1 at the top, H2s go after that, H3s. You can have many H2s and many H3s. You can only have one H1. There is an easier way to add the labels, the headings, than by pulling them in one at a time. And I'll show you that in a second. But first, let's start building an email. Okay, this is an H1 element. I've inserted that. If I view it, I can see it right at the top. Right now, it's not centered like the other one was. And there's no background. It just inserted it. And this is what it looks like by default. Okay, that is the H1. You will see me styling things like this as we go. Well, let's put some content in this email. So we have a content element that allows you to put content and an image in. The max size image that will go in this content element is only 330 pixels. That's the biggest. You can also put in a medium or a small. So let's go ahead and insert an image, and I'll show you why that's the case. We have an upload image and crop option. This is fantastic for keeping all of your images the same aspect ratio. And I will copy some content here just so we have something to paste in. Okay, we have an image. And there's a paragraph and another paragraph. So we have an image and paragraphs. When I view this, okay, we can see it doesn't look great yet, but we're getting there. The element needs to go to the top, and I'm going to put a spacer in between the H1 and the content because it looked like it needed to be spaced out. We go back into the content area. At the bottom of all of our elements, we have some overrides. Okay, you're getting all of our default values, but you can override them. Let's say you had an email with very little content and you wanted to bump up the font sizes. Down here is one of the places you could do it. Or if you had a whole lot of content, you could make the font size smaller. We have a button section that will allow you to style, change the color, the alignment, things like that for buttons. Okay, let's go ahead and make this. The image also has settings at the bottom. Image alignment, let's try aligning it right. Okay, there it is, aligned right. So text will always wrap when you're using a content element, and this is the biggest size of image you can have for a content element. You can align it left, right, or centered. The content will not wrap if it's centered. And then there are two smaller size, the medium and the small, if you wanted smaller images. Okay, that is a content area. Now let's look at a columns area, which is almost the same as a content area, only it's going to do it in columns. And then after that, we'll look at an image element. So I'm dragging in the columns, have to choose a background color. And there they are, column 1, column 2. We can have as many as 4 columns or as few as 1. Why would you want to have 1 column? And the answer to that is if you want a background color for a section of your email, you can do it with a 1-column element. The content element does not allow you to change the background color in any way. So that image and wrapping text, that is always going to be on white. If you want a different color background, you would need to use a 1-column or 2-column or 3 to get that background color. When we click on one of these 2 columns, this is where we enter our content. We can put in a title, which again is like a heading. We can put in a paragraph. Down below, upload an image. And then below that, we have style overrides again. So overrides are on each of the screens at the bottom if you need to override any of the styles. And in this case, that would be the content, the title, or the button styles. So now when we look at this, okay, we can see the columns are at the top. I'm going to put them underneath. There is no spacing in between the columns and the content. So part of building the email, especially from scratch, is sticking in the space where you need it. We said the columns should be underneath, so I'm going to move them down. I'll put a spacer in between them. And let's look at it one more time. Okay, now the columns are below. I haven't put anything in the second column. There is the first column. So this is how you build an email manually. You have to look at it. You're probably going to click that view button over and over and over like I have, and you'll probably be closing lots of tabs like I am. And you build it one element at a time. You can drag in a line if you want it. Again, the headings should go H1, H2, and H3. So let's look at one more thing. Let's say you have a very long email and you have a lot of headings, a lot of H2s and H3s, because you have a lot of sections of content that are in this email. There's an easier way to do it than doing it one element at a time. You saw me, I can pull in an H2, I can say this is my heading, and go back, move it down. Then I could pull in my content and do the same thing, keep adding a label, an H2, and then a paragraph and an image or whatever I want. And I could build the entire email this way. And some people do, and there's reasons to do it sometimes. Okay, there's my H2. Whoops, that should go up. So I could keep going. Now, maybe under the H2, I have a paragraph, and then I have several H3s, and then I have another H2, and I have several H3s. There's an easier way to do this, and that would be to go into your content area or your columns, and let's say you're going to have an H2, a paragraph, and then 3 H3s, each with a paragraph, something like that. We can start building all of that right here. This is the H2, highlight it, and turn it into an H2 right here. Okay, then put in my paragraph. Now maybe I want an H3. Do the same thing. So you can do a lot of your work in one content area rather than breaking it up and doing it, label or heading, paragraph, heading, paragraph, heading, paragraph on the message tab. You can do a lot of that right here, and it makes it easy, especially if you're copying and pasting content from another place and it's already laid out for you. Okay. So I've added an H2 and an H3. When we go back, let me get rid of this H2. We don't need it now. I put it inside of the content area. When I view it, this is an H2, this is an H3, and I can see I need a spacer in front of this. So I would pull a spacer in front of that. But this is how you build an email manually. Once you get it built and you really like it, then you may want to copy it on the Sent tab when you send it next month or next week. That was the first way to build an email, the manual way. The second one was from from a template. So let's look at this email from template. We started by creating our email based on the template that looked exactly like this because presumably we wanted our content to look like this when we send it out. So let's edit this email. I've created it from the template. The first thing I probably want to do is change that hero image at the top. Okay. The hero image at the top, we can see, is an image element. Image elements do not have wrapping text, and they can be as wide as you like, or as wide as the email. The email, I believe, max width is 1,000 pixels. Okay, there's the hero image. Let's delete it and upload another one. Need an image that's wide enough. I believe this one is. Okay, there we have updated our hero image. You would probably also change the skin and choose one of the skins that are, your unit or department on the appearance tab. So we've updated the hero image. The next thing I can see is the H1. We go back to the message tab. There's the H1 right underneath it. For now, I'll just put in my H1. So now we have labeled the email at the top. Next, we would change the paragraph. So you can see how quickly you can go in and just change this information to be your information and have it styled exactly like the original template. First paragraph, if I didn't want this, I would go in and put in my content. Doesn't mean I can't add an image. They just didn't use an image for this particular template. So that's how you work with either a copied email from the previous week, the previous month, or an email from a template. You have everything already in here for you, and you have to just simply go in and say, oh, I don't want buttons. This email had buttons in it somewhere. Maybe you don't want buttons. So you have a line, buttons, and another line. I would go down here, delete probably a line, a spacer, and the buttons. So let's delete a line. All right. So it jumped me back to the top of the screen. And then I want to show you how one of these settings works. When I'm deleting something at the bottom, like the buttons or anything at the bottom, I can choose to auto scroll the page. So if I choose auto scroll page and save it, now anything I do at the bottom of this page is going to return me back to the bottom of this page because this is where I'm working and I don't want to have to scroll down each time and figure out where it was. Sometimes people do a whole lot of scrolling on this page. This email is actually not that long. Some are much, much longer. All right, so I've turned that setting on. Let's say we are editing this event content element right here. We make a change, hit save, and go back. It will take you right back down to where you were working. Now maybe you wanted to work on this, or let's get rid of this line. If we delete something, it's going to take us right back down to where we were. Okay, I probably want to get rid of that spacer so there's not two in there. But the auto scroll will help you greatly if you have a long email and you're doing a lot of scrolling on this message tab. Okay, while I'm talking about these settings on the side, I will continue on talking about settings. We also have top padding and heading padding. Anytime we have important settings that you probably want to use more regularly than not, we put them right in front of you. They'll be right there on the screen, right in front of you, available to click. They won't be buried. For instance, what would be a good example? Columns. They won't be buried like this. I have to click on this to see any of these advanced settings. I probably don't need to do that. However, right above that on a column, I see all of these settings, and these are right in front of me. These are the ones I probably want to be changing, or I most likely will need to change as I'm creating my email. Okay, so anywhere in Web Tools, it's not just Email Plus. If there are important settings, they will be visible. If they're not important, not as important, they will be behind a drop-down. Now, the drop-down may be more important for UIC or UIS or system non-branded, non-Illinois branded units. You may be using that more than if you are an Illinois branded unit. Okay, so again, like I said, the settings that are important will be right in front of you. And we try to give you an example of what they are. So the left and right padding, if I click on that, I can quickly see that that is the left and right padding of the entire email for this column section, this column element. The next one, inner column padding. Okay, that's inside of the columns. And this would be important if you had background colors on your columns, if they weren't white. If they're white, then that padding, it becomes unimportant. But if it is a dark background, you don't want your text going right up against the edges. So these settings are more important. Top padding, okay, that would be the padding between an image and the content below it. This looks like an example of a one column layout. So you would not want your image sitting right on top of the text. This is a way to put the spacer in there. All of these will show you what we're trying to do for you. And these are the settings, again, that are most likely to be changed. If I go back to the message tab, there's two more settings here at the top. Top and bottom padding and heading padding. So if I save it now with the top and bottom padding on, I'll show you what that does. That puts the space at the top. We would consider this a broken email. I don't want to receive an email in my inbox like this. In this example, where you're using a hero image and bumping it up against the header and the skin, I would expect the image to be up against the header and the skin, not this white bar in there. But if you're not using an image, then the top and bottom padding is more important. You could put spacers in and not have this, but that's just a little bit more work. So if you have a hero image, you're probably going to be turning this off. The heading padding, I mentioned that before. So let's look at what happens when I turn the heading padding off. And the titles, again, work like a heading 3. Okay, now we can see there is no padding. So anywhere in here that has a heading, there's no padding below it. Some people want emails that look like this. So you have the option to do it. We removed all the padding from all the headings in this email with that one click. So if you do or you don't want padding, this is the way to go. Use this option and it will be done consistently for you. It doesn't mean you still won't need spacers somewhere, but it would remove the need for a lot of the spacers and a lot of the work of building this email. Okay. Now we're going to look at some of the other tabs in Email Plus. We've looked at the message tab pretty good here, and this is where we do all of our real work in building the layout. I mentioned the workflow in Web Tools is left to right, so let's just follow that pattern. I'll go to General. I see a subscription tab. Okay, we've already filled out the General tab. There's a couple other things at the bottom that aren't as important. For instance, click here to see this online. That's at the top of every email, unless you turn it off. Some people don't want that. And if you're sending out an email that uses mail merge, meaning it's going to start with Dear James, and maybe if someone is sending it to me, I have different content or different paragraphs or different links to click because it's a mail merge and being built from a spreadsheet, then you would not want this, because this is the online view is not going to show everyone's specific email that was built for them. It's going to show you whatever you get when you click the view button. So here it would say Dear first name, if it was going to substitute in Dear James, so that would be a case if you're using mail merge that you want to turn this off. Subscription. This is where you do your subscribe and unsubscribe. We do all of that for you. You have to tell us whether you want a subscribe link or not, and whether you want an unsubscribe link or not. Subscribe is pretty straightforward. You have to choose one of the groups from the general tab. In this email, I didn't add any groups. Let me add a couple. I'm not sure which of these groups I have enabled subscribing, so I'll add a couple. Now we'll go back to subscription. There they are. So now I can choose them. If someone clicks the subscribe button that we're going to insert, then right now they would be inserted in Jim's group 2. They can only subscribe to one group. If you have 10 groups selected on the general tab, you're only going to be able to choose one here that they can subscribe to. If it's no, of course, we don't put a subscribe link at the bottom. Unsubscribe is a little bit different in that there's two options. Over on the right, we can see users who unsubscribe are removed from all groups selected for distribution. Okay, so that means if I click yes, add the unsubscribe button, any user in any group, if I had chosen 10 groups on the general tab, they would be removed from all 10. A different option is opt out. Okay, let's say you have these groups and they're not only used for this email, but they're used for many purposes, and you don't want to take John out of the group because he needs to get the other emails. What you can do is add the opt-out option. And over on the right, I can see users who opt out are added to a separate group that does not receive emails. So in the group manager, if I chose that option, I would want to jump over and create a group that is of type email opt-out. It can only be used for this purpose, this group, for opt-outs. So now back to Email Plus. Let's say I created a opt-out group. Here I could select it. Now, anyone in this group will not receive this email. And if someone clicks the opt-out button at the bottom, they will be added to this group. They won't be taken out of any of the 10 groups that we're sending to. They're simply added to this opt-out group. Then each time you send the email, you have to remember to make sure you include this opt-out group so we know don't send to John. If you're copying from the sent tab each week or each month, you're resending this, this will all be copied for you. You won't have to think about it. It'll just work. But if you are going and creating a new email and someone has opted out of that type of email, then you would want to include your opt-out group. So that's the difference between unsubscribe and opt-out. Unsubscribe, the people are removed from the original groups. Opt-out, they are not. They're added to a different type of group, an opt-out group, which tells us don't send to them. Okay, on the message tab, we have subtabs. The salutation, that again deals with mail merge, and I will be covering that in my February series of workshops. Mail merge can get pretty detailed. Files. Email Plus does not support attachments, but we do support file uploads, which are basically the same thing. So if you wanted to attach a file and you're sending it out to 10,000 people or however many, you would upload it on the Files tab, copy the URL, and then paste that in your content somewhere so the person would simply click on a link, and that's how they would get the attachment. It would just be a link in the email. I'm going to skip labels. That isn't used much. Debug. This is an important tab, even though it's rarely needed. If you're testing an email and your email is not coming, clicking that send test button and nothing is happening, most likely it's going to your junk, or it's getting stuck by the campus spam filter, but most likely it's going to your junk folder. If that's the case, this is the tab to help you figure out why. And if you read everything up above, you will find it tells you to simply, okay, turn off half of these. Let's say that's half, and click send debug email. This will send a test email that does not include any of these content elements. Now, if the email arrives in your junk box, you know the problem is in one of these top that are still selected. However, if it was properly delivered to your inbox, then you know the problem was down here. So it's a process of elimination to find the content element that has the problem. Okay, let's say it did arrive in our junk box, and I went up and turned them all off, but this one, that's what we're doing. We're trying to find exactly the one that's causing the problem. Okay, let's say I got to this point and I know that when I send the debug email, it goes to junk. Now I would jump over to my message tab and I would go into that specific element, whichever one it was, and look and see. It's usually a link. Usually a bad link is causing it to go to junk. You delete the link, you send it again, and if it doesn't go to junk, you know you found the problem. So first you eliminate all the elements on the debug tab, and then you go into the element that has the problem and you start deleting things and sending another test until you find it. And again, usually it's a URL. If it is a URL and you really need it, you can go to the short URL tool and create a short URL for it, and then that should get you around that problem. But that's how you use the debug tab, just process elimination. We looked at the appearance tab briefly. This is where you choose your branded or non-branded skin. This also has a styles sub-tab. Primarily, this is for units that are non-branded units, system, UIC, UIS, those types. And in here, you can go in and you can change all of the settings across the entire email. So you would not have to go down and change each of your elements if you wanted a larger font size. You could do it here. You could go down to font size, change it, and it's changed across the entire email. These are all the defaults that the email is using. So if you wanted to, come up with your own design, this is where you would do it. And then all of the elements would inherit these. On each of the element, then you could override any of these and do something differently. But if you want to update everything globally, this is where you would do it. The preview tab is used for mail merge. And again, I will cover that in February, but this is how you could test any of the emails that you were going to send any mail merge information to and verify that the information looks correct for that person. The send tab, when we're finished with this email, of course, this is where we go to send it. I'm not going to talk a lot about the screen other than the link URLs. These are all the URLs that are in the email, okay? Whether they're in the skin or in the content, these are all the URLs. And to check these URLs and make sure they work correctly, I can simply click on them. I see that it loaded the block I, and I'm just hitting Control W to close each of these tabs. Okay, that worked. I can very quickly verify that every link in this email is correct and there's not a typo. Whoop, we have a typo. There it is, page not found. That's why you do this. So one of the URLs in that template that I copied has changed. And so just within, a minute, you can test every link in your email by doing this. So let's go into a sent email. Here is the email that I sent about the reminder for this workshop. And if I go to the reports tab, okay, I can see that I've already ran some. Let me delete these. Here are all the available reports we have. Summary PDF is the most popular, and it is the default. We have summary PDF by group. Like I said, if we sent to 10 groups, maybe you want to know how each group performed. So we would give you a summary by PDF. You can see the summary for each of the groups individually. Below that, links, if you want to see what user clicked links, or if you just want to see, how many links were clicked, who opened emails, open totals. We have lots of reports here. The three that I use most are the summary PDF by group, and the sent and bounces detail. And let's go ahead and run each of those. Okay, the summary PDF. Simple summary information across all the groups. I can see this was sent to 4,600 people. It was opened 2,100 times. More summary open information, link activity, how many times links were clicked, how many times did people click. Down below, a bounce summary. I can see that 460 people bounced. And we'll look at that. We'll look at both hard and soft bounces in our report here in a second. Domain level tracking. These are the domains that were sent to in this email and what happened with each of them. And then the link overview. Here's all the links in the email and how many times they were clicked. So that's a summary for the entire email. Now the summary by group. Okay, there is the first group that I sent to. I sent it to our Skin Designer users. Then I send it to our Email Plus users. Okay, there's the second summary. Down below on the reports tab, this is a helpful little section. It shows you just the math that went into how we got to the number of emails that we delivered. So I can see that the total group emails was 7,100 between the two groups. I come down and then I can see that we removed 1,700 duplicates and there were 400 people that had opted out. So this is our total number that we ended up sending to. This is just helpful information to see, why didn't we send it to all 7,100? Well, it's because of all the duplicates and the opt-outs. But up above, the last report we have to look at then is the sent and bounces detail. This is a very, very helpful report. It's a spreadsheet and it shows you everyone that was sent to. Here they are, every email address. It shows you what happened. And well, we'll look at the errors here in a second. So up here at the top, if it says sent, what that means is our system, Web Tools, sent it to Socket Labs. Socket Labs is the vendor that delivers all the university emails. Socket Labs, they went ahead and sent it on, and they sent us a message back that said, yes, we got this, we sent it, you're done. It was sent. Nothing happened. It didn't bounce. Now, all of these were sent at the top. If I go to the very bottom of this report, we'll see the problems. These are the ones that Socket Lab let us know, hey, Yahoo said whatever, Hotmail said whatever, and let's see what they were saying. Okay, hard, we can see all these hard bounces. The email address is invalid. Okay, it's invalid. It's not going to be delivered today, tomorrow, or the next day because that email address doesn't exist. So all of these should be removed from the group so that we're not sending bad email addresses every time we send an email and running up our junk score with the different vendors. The more bad emails we send, the more likely our good emails will end up in people's junk. So we need to clean this up. All of these say hard. Let's see if we can see any that say soft. There's a lot of them. Soft. Okay, down here. So any that say soft may actually resolve themselves. Let's say Yahoo was having a problem. They couldn't deliver it. It would say soft in here. And then probably later today, it would be delivered. And then the next report you would run, it would simply say sent. So the soft will likely disappear. The hard will never disappear. And what we should do with the hard is copy them all. So I'm copying every hard bounce. All 400, however many there were. And now I'm going to the group manager because we want to clean these up. So in the group manager, I would go into the group that I sent to, and I know it was my Email Plus users group, go to the Manage tab, delete and paste in all of those bad addresses and delete. Okay, I can see 150 or so were deleted. Now I would go down to the second group, which was the Skin Designer group. do the same thing. Manage, delete. I can see there's 4,000. Now there's 3,700. So now these groups are cleaned up. Next time I send out all those hard bounces, they've all been removed from the group. Okay, the archive tab at the top of any email, unless you've turned it off, you have this click here to see this online. Let's say you sent out an email and there was a mistake and you wanted to correct it. Okay, if it's sitting in a user's inbox, you cannot correct it. Once they've received it, there's no changing it. However, if they click that link at the top to view online, you can fix it. And let's say that we didn't want 10 a.m., we wanted 11 a.m. So I can simply search through this, and this is code, so it's not pretty, but I can find, I can find 10 a.m., wherever it's at. There it is, 10 a.m., and let's make it 11. And save. Now when a user clicks view online, there, it's got my correction in there. Okay, there is a restore button as well. I just restored it. So now if I refresh, back to 10 a.m. So if you mess it up, you can always restore it. And then the last tab is privileges. This is where you would add other admins to edit this email like you are doing. All right, I have one more tab to tell you about, the deleted tab. If you delete anything in Email Plus or in any web tool, we have a deleted tab. So let's say I accidentally deleted this email 3 from template. I can go up to the deleted tab, there it is, and restore it. So if you ever accidentally delete something, you can restore it in web tools. All right, that is the end of what I had. Let me look in the chat and see if there are any questions or if anyone has a question. Okay, does it make sense to keep the content in separate blocks to have an easier time rearranging? Yes, yeah, if you want to take the time and separate the content and put it in different blocks, it is very easy to look at on the message tab and you can rearrange it any way you want. However, if you're getting a big Word document and it's got a bunch of content and it's got a bunch of headings in it, sometimes it's easier to paste it into one single content block and not divide it all up. So it may save you time. All right. Is it a good idea to send prospective students web tools emails? I think there were past issues with non-UIUC email recipients. I know no issues in web tools of any kind. So I would say yes to that one. If I understand it. Any other questions?
Yeah, I had one in there. Can you add more than one image in a content block?
Didn't see that. No, you cannot. Good question. You can only have one image per content block. If you had several images to add, you would need several content blocks or several image elements. But no, we don't have an element that will allow you to upload multiple images. The columns will allow you, of course, to upload one image per column. Any other questions?
I have a follow-up to that
Yes.
non-UIUC recipient one. Is there any special thing, like should we do the opt-out or the cancel subscription or whatever?
You know, that's a decision you would have to make, meaning when I send out emails, if it's a system related and I need everyone in web tools to get it and it's important, I do not put an unsubscribe or an opt out at the bottom because you need to get this. This is, it's like sending parents of students. They're probably not allowed to opt out of certain, billing emails or whatever. So it kind of depends on the purpose of the email.
Okay, so we don't have to have that.
You do not have to. No.
Even with outside of university. Okay.
It depends on the purpose of the email.
Okay.
If it's marketing related, absolutely. But if it's important, then probably not. All right, this is the last day of our January workshop series. We have a skin designer workshop at 1 o'clock. That will take about 30 minutes and is a very simple workshop compared to this one. And next month, we're going to have another series of workshops. I know one of them is going to be on mail merge. I'm not sure what the other workshop will be on. I'm also planning on having workshops in March and April. I'm retiring at the end of April, and I'm trying to do as many workshops as I can before then. So thank you everyone for joining me today, and I will see you next time.